after 25 years of marriage. Then one night I came home early and heard a man's voice coming from our bedroom. That moment, that sound, split my world clean in half. What I found behind that door would burn everything I believed about love, loyalty, and family to ash. My name is Ethan Cole, and this is how the life I built collapsed in a single evening. But before we dive in, if you're watching this, take a second to like, share, and subscribe. You won't believe how far this story goes. 12 years ago, I was 44 and thought I had it all figured out. A good job, a good house, a good marriage. At least that's what I told myself. I was a logistics manager for a national retail chain, juggling warehouse schedules, shipment delays, and overtime that ate entire weekends. The paycheck was solid, the benefits decent, and my boss had started hinting about a regional director role. It was the kind of American success story that looks perfect from the outside. Laura, my wife, worked part-time at our daughter Hannah's high school as an administrative assistant. She was 39, sharp, organized, the kind of woman people described as holding it all together. Our daughter, Hannah, 17 then, was about to graduate. Brilliant girl, obsessed with journalism and already editing the school paper. Noah, our 13-year-old, was quieter, kind-hearted, funny in that awkward teenage way, happiest with a video game controller in his hand. We lived in a quiet suburb in Connecticut, 4 bedrooms, trimmed lawn, bikes on the driveway, polite smiles from neighbors, the kind of place where nothing bad is supposed to happen. I worked hard to keep it that way. The overtime I pulled went toward Hannah's college fund, the mortgage, a little cushion for the future. I thought Laura understood that. Then small things began to feel wrong. Dinners that used to stretch into conversation shrank into silence. Laura started going to bed early, claiming headaches. She carried her phone everywhere, even into the bathroom. When I asked what was wrong, she smiled that distant smile and said, "Nothing, just tired." But the distance between us kept growing, subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. And every instinct in me whispered that something was happening right under my roof. That whisper became proof one Friday evening when I came home early. The house was too quiet. No TV murmuring in the background. No clatter of dishes from the kitchen. Just that thick, unnatural silence that makes the air feel heavier. "Laura?" I called out, setting my keys on the counter. No answer. The clock above the stove read 5:32 p.m., 2 hours earlier than when I usually got home. Outside, our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, was trimming her rose bushes. She gave me a quick glance, then looked away too fast. Something about it made my stomach twist. That's when I noticed the silver Honda Accord parked across the street. Unfamiliar. Engine still warm. I walked through the hallway, shoes sinking into the carpet that suddenly felt foreign under my feet. I climbed the stairs, each creak loud enough to make my pulse pound in my throat. Halfway up, I heard it, a man's voice. Low, confident, followed by Laura's laugh. It wasn't the kind of laugh you fake for politeness. It was the kind that came from deep down, the kind I hadn't heard in months. My hand gripped the railing so hard my knuckles turned white. "Ethan won't be home for hours," Laura said, her voice muffled but clear. "Good," the man replied. "I've been thinking about you all week." They were in our bedroom. I should have stormed in. I should have kicked the door open and ended it right there. But instead, something colder took over. A need for proof. Evidence. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Through the crack in the door, I saw Laura sitting on the edge of our bed in a blue dress I didn't recognize. Across from her sat a man, mid-40s, thick shoulders, flannel shirt. Mark Henson. His hand rested casually on her knee, as if he belonged there. "What if he finds out?" Laura asked. "He won't," Mark said. "Guys like him never notice." Too busy counting paychecks and spreadsheets. That line hit me harder than any punch, my wife laughed. "You're right. He lives for that job." That was enough. I backed away, step by step, until I reached the bottom of the stairs. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. 23 years of marriage reduced to a cruel private joke. I sat in my truck outside, staring at the dark windows of my own house. My brother's name glowed on my contact list. "Ryan," I said when he picked up. "If your wife ever cheated on you—"
"What would you do?"
Ryan's voice sharpened instantly.
"Ethan, what's going on?"
I told him everything, every sound, every word. Every second I stood outside that door, hearing my wife betray me in our own home. Ryan didn't interrupt. He just listened. When I finished, his silence lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. "Don't do anything stupid," he said finally. "You're angry. You have every right to be. But right now, you need your head clear. Get proof."
"Real proof?"
"Because once you confront her, there's no going back." I hung up and stared at my reflection in the truck's rearview mirror. My eyes looked different, hollow, like something had been carved out of me. At 6:15, the front door opened. Mark Henson stepped out, zipped up his jacket, and kissed Laura on the porch before walking to his car. The silver Honda drove away, taillights glowing like embers in the dusk. I waited 10 minutes before walking inside. Laura was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, acting like she hadn't just detonated a bomb in our marriage. "You're home early?" she said, not turning around. "Yeah," I replied. "Slow day at work." She nodded once, cool and steady. "Dinner will be ready soon." Her calmness made me sick. The confidence of someone who believed she was untouchable. That week, I went through the motions, meetings, shipment logs, warehouse calls, but my mind stayed locked on that recording. Every night I replayed their voices until I knew each pause, each laugh, each cruel word. Ryan called again on Thursday.
"I've got a guy," he said.
Private investigator.
"Name's Jack Nolan. Used to be a cop."
Discreet, sharp, and worth every cent. We met the next day at a diner off I-95. Nolan slid into the booth across from me, ordered black coffee, and studied me like a case file. "Your brother told me what's going on," he said. "Before we start, understand something.
Once I dig, I don't stop."
You'll learn things you might wish you hadn't." "I already know she's cheating," I said. "I just need evidence that holds up in court." Nolan nodded, opened a worn leather notebook.
"Tell me about this guy, Mark Henson."
Where he works, what he drives, how often he visits. I told him everything I'd seen. The car, the day, the time, every detail etched into my memory. "All right," Nolan said. "I'll follow your wife for a week. Document everything, where she goes, who she meets, how long she stays, and I'll run a background check on Henson. These types, they usually have a pattern." When I walked out of that diner, the night air was cold, sharp, and merciless. I told myself I was just gathering facts. But deep down, I already knew facts wouldn't fix anything. They'd just confirm what my heart had already accepted. 3 days later, Jack Nolan called. His voice was calm, methodical, like a surgeon about to deliver bad news he'd given 100 times before. "I've got something," he said.
"You sitting down?"
I was in my office at work, pretending to care about a shipment delay out of Baltimore. My heart sank. "Go ahead." "Your wife's boyfriend, Mark Henson, 46, regional sales manager for a plumbing supply company. 2 prior divorces, 2 DUI convictions behind on child support for both ex-wives." He paused. "And here's the kicker. He's married right now." I gripped the phone tighter. "Married?"
"Yeah, 8 months.
"Wife's name is Dana Henson. Lives 20 minutes from you in Riverside. And from what I can tell, she has no idea." For a moment I couldn't breathe. Not only was Laura betraying me, she was helping another man betray his wife. It was betrayal squared, layered, deliberate, grotesque. "There's more," Nolan continued.
"I followed them yesterday."
Marriott on Route 9, checked in at 3:18, checked out at 5:26. I've got time-stamped photos, plate numbers, hotel logs.
This isn't just emotional anymore. When the call ended, I just sat there, staring at the walls of my office.
My hands were trembling. Every ounce of denial I'd been holding on to collapsed under the weight of cold, irrefutable truth. That night, I parked outside my house for 15 minutes, before going in. The lights were on. Silhouettes moved across the windows like nothing had changed. Inside, Hannah was at the kitchen table filling out college applications. Noah was sprawled on the couch, video game controller in hand. Laura was upstairs with another headache. "Hey, Dad," Hannah said, not looking up. "You okay? You and Mom have been weird lately." She was sharp, too sharp. "Could read tension like a headline. Just work stress?" I lied, forcing a smile.
"How's the state university application?" "Almost done," she smiled faintly. "I'll probably hear back next month." I nodded, pretending to care about deadlines and essays while a storm brewed inside me.
I wasn't just a betrayed husband anymore. I was a father trying to keep the floor from collapsing under his kids. 2 weeks later, Nolan handed me a thick manila folder. Photos, receipts, hotel records. Proof that 23 years of marriage had turned into a carefully choreographed lie. I thought having evidence would bring relief. Closure, maybe. But all it did was hollow me out further, because proof doesn't heal. It just kills denial. And now that denial was dead, the only thing left was the cold, quiet decision of what to do next. The following Thursday night, I worked late, genuinely late this time. A massive shipment delay had thrown the whole supply chain into chaos. By the time I got home, it was after 9. The house was dark except for the flicker of the TV in the living room. Noah was asleep on the couch, still in his school clothes. His hair stuck up like he'd fought sleep and lost. Hannah's car wasn't in the driveway.
Upstairs was silent. No movement.
No sign of Laura. I nudged Noah's shoulder gently. "Hey, buddy. Where's your mom?" He blinked, groggy. "She left around 6. Said she had errands to run. Told me to order pizza." Errands. My voice cracked on the word. I checked my phone. No messages. No missed calls. No explanation. Just the empty silence of a woman who no longer felt the need to lie convincingly. Something in me snapped. Not the loud, reckless kind of anger. The quiet kind. Cold. Surgical. I called Ryan. "Can you come over?"
"I need to get out for a while. Ethan, it's 10 o'clock.
"What's going on?" "Please," I said. "I just need air." He arrived 20 minutes later, didn't ask questions, didn't push. "Go," he said. "I'll stay with Noah." I drove with no destination, just streets blurring under streetlights. My hands were shaking on the wheel. Somehow, I ended up at Riverside Casino, a place I'd only ever visited twice, both for company Christmas parties. But tonight, it called to me like static in the air. Inside, it was all noise, clattering chips, neon, laughter, the kind of chaos that drowns out thought. I told myself I'd play a single hand of blackjack just to feel something different.
One hand turned into 2.
Then 10. By midnight, I was up 800. By 2 a.m., I was down 6. By 4, I'd lost $1,500, the money meant for Hannah's college deposit. When I stumbled back into my house at dawn, the light burned my eyes. Ryan was in the kitchen, coffee steaming in front of him. "Rough night?" he asked, without looking up. "You could say that?" Noah asked if you were okay. I told him work's been tough. I poured myself coffee, my hands trembling. "Ryan, I think I'm losing it." He set his mug down. "Then stop trying to carry it alone. Decide what you're going to do about Laura before you destroy yourself." He was right. I couldn't keep orbiting the wreckage of my own life. That morning, I called in sick to work. And as the clock hit 8:30, I stood by the window, watching Laura's car back out of the driveway. For the first time in months, I wasn't afraid of what came next. When Laura's car disappeared around the corner, I went upstairs. Every step felt deliberate, each creak of the floorboards echoing like a countdown. Our bedroom, the same room where she'd laughed with another man, felt sterile now, stripped of warmth. I opened the closet and began packing. Not mine, hers. 3 suitcases, every piece of clothing, every pair of shoes, every perfume bottle that didn't smell like truth anymore. I folded her life into neat, quiet bundles. The way you'd pack evidence before a trial. Downstairs on the kitchen table, I spread out Jack Nolan's manila folder, photos, receipts, hotel logs, her lies in black and white. At 3:15 p.m. the front door opened. The sound of her keys hitting the counter was enough to make my chest tighten. "Ethan?" she called. "What's all this?" "Sit down," I said, my voice steady. "We need to talk." She stayed standing, eyes flicking from the suitcases lined in the hall to the photos on the table. A visible tremor ran through her. "You hired someone to follow me?"
I hired someone to document what you were doing while I was working to keep this family afloat. Her voice broke.
"How long have you known?" 3 weeks since I caught you in our bedroom."
A month since I found out about Mark. 2 weeks about the hotels. 10 days about his wife. That last word, wife, hit her like a slap. "His wife?" she whispered. "Yeah, Laura. The woman he married 8 months ago."
"The one who doesn't know her husband is a liar, just like you." Tears filled her eyes, spilling down her face.
"I never meant for it to go this far, but it did. The air between us went still."
No more pretending, no more polite lies. Just the sound of two people standing in the wreckage of what they'd built. "You're going to take those suitcases and leave tonight," I said. "Stay with him, with your sister, in a hotel, I don't care."
"But you're not sleeping here anymore." Her breath hitched.
"What about the kids?" "They stay with me. You'll get visitation once the lawyers figure it out."
"And Laura, don't come near them until then." Her shoulders collapsed, the fight gone.
She picked up her purse, keys trembling in her hand.
"Ethan, I'm sorry." I stared at her. "You're sorry you got caught." She walked out.
The door closed softly behind her, but the silence it left was deafening. For a long moment, I didn't move. The kitchen clock ticked. A car passed outside, and for the first time since that night, the house felt both empty and free. The door had barely clicked shut when the weight of it all finally hit me. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel anger, just exhaustion, the kind that sinks deep into your bones and stays there. I sat alone in that quiet kitchen, staring at the manila folder, at proof of a marriage already gone, long before I'd seen the evidence. 23 years reduced to documents and photographs. That night, when Hannah came home from her shift at the bookstore, she noticed instantly. "Dad," she said, eyes scanning the empty hallway. "Where's Mom?" I took a slow breath. "She's moved out." Her face tightened. Not shock, not confusion, just quiet understanding.
"Because of the fighting?"
"Because of the truth," I said. She didn't ask for details. She just sat across from me, reached for my hand, and said, "Then we'll be okay?" Hours later, after Noah came home from baseball practice, I told him too. His first words broke me.
"Is it my fault?"
I pulled him into my arms, holding on as he cried.
"No, son.
"None of this is on you." The next morning, sunlight poured through the kitchen windows, brighter than it had in months. I made breakfast, packed lunches, and drove my kids to school. The world hadn't ended. It had just changed. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't destroy you. It strips everything false away until all that's left is what was real to begin with. And as I watched Hannah and Noah walk toward the school doors, I realized something simple but undeniable. The worst day of my life had already happened. Everything after this was just rebuilding.